incapable of perceiving abstractions, when men are taught that they must look at trees but never at forests, make it necessary for me to give the following warning to my readers. Do not be misled by those who might tell you that We the Living is dated, or no longer relevant to the present, since it deals with Soviet Russia in the 1920s. Such a criticism is applicable only to the writers of the naturalist school, and represents the viewpoint of those who, having never discovered that any other school of literature can or did exist, are unable to distinguish the function of a novel from that of a Sunday supplement article. The naturalist school of writing consists of substituting statistics for one's standard of value, then cataloging minute photographic journalistic details of a given country, region, city, or backyard in a given decade, year, month, or split second, on the overall premise of, this is what men have done, as against the premise of, this is what men have chosen, and or should choose to do. This last is the premise of the Romantic school of writing, which deals above all with human values, and therefore with the essential and the universal in human actions, not with the statistical and the accidental. The naturalist school records the choices which men happen to have made. The Romantic school projects the choices which men can and ought to make. I am a romantic realist, distinguished from the romantic tradition in that the values I deal with pertain to this earth and to the basic problems of this era. We the Living is not a story about Soviet Russia in 1925. It is a story about dictatorship, anywhere at any time, whether it be Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, or, which this novel might do its share in helping to prevent, a socialist America. What the rule of brute force does to men and how it destroys the best will be the same in 1925, in 1955, or in 1975. Whether the secret police is called GPU or NKVD, whether men eat millet or bread, whether they live in hovels or in housing projects, whether the rulers wear red shirts or brown ones, whether the head butcher kisses a Cambodian witch doctor or an American pianist. When at the age of 12, at the time of the Russian Revolution, I first heard the communist principle that man must exist for the sake of the state, I perceived that this was the essential issue, that this principle was evil, and that it could lead to nothing but evil, regardless of any methods, details, decrees, policies, promises, and pious platitudes. This was the reason for my opposition to communism then, and it is my reason now. I am still a little astonished at times that too many adult Americans do not understand the nature of the fight against communism as clearly as I understood it at the age of 12. They continue to believe that only communist methods are evil, while communist ideals are noble. All the victories of communism since the year 1917 are due to that particular belief among the men who are still free. To those who might wonder whether the conditions of existence in Soviet Russia have changed in any essential respect since 1925, I will make a suggestion. Take a look through the files of the newspapers. If you do, you will observe the following pattern. First, you will read glowing reports about the happiness, the prosperity, the industrial development, the progress and the power of the Soviet Union, and that any statements to the contrary are the lies of prejudiced reactionaries. Then, about 5 years later, you will read admissions that things were pretty miserable in the Soviet Union 5 years ago. Just about as bad as the prejudiced reactionaries had claimed. But now the problems are solved and the Soviet Union is a land of happiness, prosperity, industrial development, progress, and power. About 5 years later, you will read that Trotsky, or Zinoviev, or Kamenev, or Litvinov, or the kulaks, or the foreign imperialists had caused the miserable state of things 5 years ago, but now Stalin has purged them all, and the Soviet Union has surpassed the decadent West in happiness, prosperity, industrial development, etc. 5 years later, you will read that Stalin was a monster who had crushed the progress of the Soviet Union, but now it is a land of happiness, prosperity, artistic freedom, educational perfection, and scientific superiority over the whole world. How many of such 5-year plans will you need before you begin to understand? That depends on your intellectual honesty and your power of abstraction. But what about the Soviet possession of the atom bomb? Read the accounts of the trials of the scientists who were Soviet spies.